Hi everybody. I found my glasses. They were missing for a week. Sorry, I'm excited. Today, for Snowy Scares, I'd like to tell you about Seven Cleopatra Hill by Justin Holley, who is an American author, and he's also a paranormal investigator, which is kind of interesting. So he brings some interesting sort of insider look at the craft of paranormal investigation to his stories, which I thought was kind of an interesting, different view on horror and paranormal stories. So, Seven Cleopatra Hill is about this guy. His name's James, and he and his wife Victoria are at a romance writers convention in Jerome, Arizona, which is a pretty famously haunted town. And they're at a hotel that is purported to be very haunted. And he and his wife are just settling into the convention when they get the announcement that there's going to be a huge blizzard. So they have to figure out, do they want to evacuate and try to head down the mountain before the snow comes, or do they want to stay and tough it out? So he and his wife elect to stay, to tough it out. Because they figure, it's not the worst thing in the world to be snowed in a luxury hotel in the mountains for the weekend. But what they didn't bargain for is that this 30-year blizzard also brings with it a curse. And the curse is that if there's a ritual that requires some sacrifices, and if the sacrifices aren't met, everybody in the town's going to die. So, between James and Victoria, who sort of get suckered into this investigation, and the town officials, including a sheriff and some deputies, and the rest of the hotel convention goers, they have to figure out what's going on in the town and how to stop it. And it's pretty fun. The characters are great. There's a couple of young children. Actually, they're about tween age. I don't think it's ever stated exactly how old they are, but they're around that 11 to 13. Precocious. They're okay to run around the hotel on their own, but they're not really old enough to drive or drink or anything kind of age. And they offer a little bit of sort of exposition as far as the paranormal investigation stuff goes. The girl, Janie, is clairvoyant, and the boy, Miles, is more interested in sort of the tech side of stuff, so recording and running around and picking up the different vibes of what's going on with the ghosts and everything. Now, it would be, I guess, easy to compare it to The Shining, because, a haunted hotel, right? But the ghosts in this most of them aren't really that malevolent. There are a lot of ghosts, and some of them are evil, but most of them are actually quite helpful, which is an interesting take on the whole ghost genre. And it's also a bit of a take on the... sorry, I'm just checking my mic. And it's also a bit of a take on the Bigfoot legend, which I found was a lot of fun. So, I give it 4 out of 5 stars. It's pretty entertaining. There's quite a bit of gore, if you like that kind of thing, which, of course, I do as a horror reader. And the characters are engaging, especially the young characters. They're a lot of fun to read about. And the author, Justin Holley, actually has a series called Bruised that references where Miles and Janie come from. So, looking forward to reading some more about that. The only minor quibbles I have with the book, one is that the editing... One of the things that I hate the most about spell check is that sometimes you can use a correctly spelled word in the wrong context. This happens a few times throughout the text, and it's a little bit annoying. I know it's such a petty thing to say, but it's one of my pet peeves. It's just like so annoying. So that's just like a little minor technical quibble. And another quibble is the story uses some Native American characters. I don't find them disrespectful at all, but I'm always a little bit cautious about using Native American characters because, as an author myself, I'm never sure what to use, what to leave out. Am I being stereotypical? And as a horror, reader and horror writer, the idea of native rituals and that sort of thing comes up frequently, but I want to be mindful of cultural appropriation, which I don't think is too badly handled in this book, but some other people might find it a cause for a little bit of concern, but not me. I found it okay. And then the last thing that I had a little bit of a quibble with was that Jerome, Arizona is a real place, and it has a really long and really interesting history, both of being haunted, but also things like labor disputes. And for a long time it was, I believe it was part of that area's Mexican territory, so there was a lot of fighting over the border until that was settled. And there's one chapter where we sort of go through the town and we kind of find out what happens to a bunch of townspeople. But there's not really any build-up or any time spent with these townspeople, so there's not really any indication as to why we should care what happens to them. So I would have liked to have spent some more time in Jerome, but I asked Justin about that in my interview with him for the Horror Tree, and he addressed it, and that, as a writer, you have to sort of find that mix between spending too much time on the backstory and moving forward with the front story, right? So he figured just a little nod to what happens in the town was enough. And maybe it was, I would have spent more time, but that's me. And you also don't want to have, super long backstory that doesn't really go anywhere, right? So that's my only quibble, my only real critiques of the story. Otherwise, it was a lot of fun. Like I said, 4 out of 5 stars. 7 Cleopatra Hill by Justin Holley. Hope you're reading lots of great horror. Have a great day.